Hello, welcome to ATV News. I'm Jamie Sheasley here with Jessie Mehrhoff, a clean water field organizer at Environment America. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me.
So would you mind telling us a little bit more about Environment America and your role within it?
Sure. Environment America is a citizen-funded environmental advocacy group, and we have state offices in 29 different states, one of which is here in Washington, D.C. It's our federal district office. And our main mission is to protect clean air, clean water, and open spaces around the country. I am a clean water organizer with Environment America, and I work primarily in DC as well as the state of Virginia, rallying support for efforts to protect America's waterways.
I understand that Environment America recently produced a report titled Waterways Restored. Would you mind elaborating a bit on that?
Sure. Waterways Restored was compiled by Environment America Research and Policy Center, and we released it this October. And the report is a series of case studies covering waterways across America that are now cleaner than they were over 40 years ago when the Clean Water Act was first put into action. The report features the Anacostia River, as it is one of the waterways in America that we regard as having made tremendous progress due to the Clean Water Act. And the report comes right before the deadline for the Environmental Protection Agency's proposed rule to close loopholes in the Clean Water Act.
You just mentioned that in Waterways Restored, the Anacostia River was mentioned as a case study. I believe that in the report, the Natural Resources Defense Council called the Anacostia River the poster child for neglected and polluted waterways. However, according to the report, it is supposed to be swimmable by 2025. Would you mind specifying what needs to happen for that?
Yes, you know, we often, I think, regard the Anacostia as the forgotten river in DC when you compare it to the bigger, more widely known Potomac. But the fact of the matter is the Clean Water Act is helping restore it. It's made such progress over 40 years when it was considered toxic before. And you know, in Washington, D.C., we see a lot of efforts to help clean up the Anacostia. There's now a 5-cent fee on plastic bags. By 2016, food service restaurants will not be able to use styrofoam, so we're reducing the trash that we're putting into the waterway. But the biggest step towards protecting the Anacostia is right in front of us right now, because to have it swimmable and fishable, we need to protect the waterways that flow into that. And so that's why we're urging support for the Environmental Protection Agency's proposed rule to close loopholes in the Clean Water Act, because though the Anacostia itself is protected, the waterways that flow into it are not right now.
Thank you. You did mention the loopholes in the Clean Water Act of 1972, which was meant to guarantee protection for rivers across America. How have the loopholes prevented this from happening, and how do you foresee those getting fixed in the future?
Sure. Almost a decade ago, in 2006, as well as a case in 2001, a developer named Rapanos in Michigan wanted to build a strip mall on some wetlands that were protected under the Clean Water Act. And unfortunately, he took this case to the Supreme Court, and the ruling called into question what waterways are protected. So fortunately, the Environmental Protection Agency in March proposed a rule that would restore the Clean Water Act to pre-2006 and restore protections to all waterways across the United States. And that, you know, impacts the drinking water of over 117 million Americans and over 2 million miles of rivers and streams. And so by passing this rule, which its comment period ends tomorrow, Friday, November 14th, we hope to see protections restored to all of the waterways in our country.
And do you think that this rule will be successful?
I do. We really hope to get this one over the finish line. We did see in September that it came under attack with a bill that was introduced in the House of Representatives. And unfortunately, the House voted on this bill that would gut the EPA protections. However, it hasn't come under attack yet in the Senate, and Environment America and our coalition partners are working to boost Senate champions for clean water around the country, so that when the final rule comes out late next spring or early next summer, we can get it over the finish line and restore protections to all the waterways that crisscross the country.
At an event held last month, 500,000 comments from farmers, small businesses, and ordinary people were gathered, and they were reported to the EPA. This clearly signifies a public call to action. What effect do you think this will have on the government?
Yes, I'm thrilled to report the original estimate was 500,000 comments, but we actually got 740,000 comments and are up to 800,000 now. So the Environmental Protection Agency now has to go through all of those comments and read them, and some are short petitions and others are page-long documents. And when you have the support of almost 1 million people in the country saying that they want clean water, I think it's, you know, both inspiring for the Environmental Protection Agency, but it also shows that we have the people power, because we're facing opposition in big agriculture, big oil, big coal, but at the end of the day, though we can't go dollar for dollar with them, we have the people on our side.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you.
This has been Jessie Mehrhoff and Jamie Sheasley with ATV News.